Hello, I'm Andy Greener, the founder of Komodo Digital, and I'm delighted to have you all join us in this audio event. One thing I see time and time again is ideas and innovation being cast aside and coming in second position to other targets. But without innovation, you're in real danger of falling behind. And that's why we're here today. In today's audio event, we want to share some actionable insights with you, specifically on how design sprints can fast-track your product innovation. Design sprints have the power to unlock breakthrough ideas and accelerate digital product innovation. They provide practical techniques to streamline your design process and foster collaboration and cross-functional alignment. During this audio event, our head of product design, Thomas Wood, known to us all as Woody, and I will be your hosts. We'll delve into the transformative power of design sprints, sharing key findings from our recent in-house design sprint and shedding light on their practical applications. We want you to gain valuable tips and techniques for leveraging design sprints to create user-centric products that truly resonate. Once again, welcome to our live audio event. Now, without further ado, I'd like to hand you across to our head of product design, Thomas Wood, or Woody, to introduce himself. Woody, over to you.
Thank you, Greener. I am Thomas Wood, or Woody, which is pretty much what everyone knows as at Komodo by. I'm head of product design. I've been working in digital for close to around 10 years now, specialising in UI, UX, and I'm just here with Greener to answer a few questions around a recent design sprint we held internally, and just kind of going through how design sprints can help fast track your product innovation.
Cool, so for people who are unsure, can you explain what a design sprint is and why a company would do one?
Yeah, so a sprint is pretty much a 5-day process for answering critical business questions through design, prototyping and testing ideas before they go too far down the line of building out an idea to realise that it's not really got any legs. For this sprint, we kind of loosely followed the Google design sprint model.
Okay, why Google design sprint?
Pretty much the industry standard really around the workshop sprint format type of thing. It's something that we've experimented with before at Komodo. However, we found that scale can kind of be an issue when it comes to applying this to smaller agencies, but I'll talk about that a bit later on.
Okay, so could you break down the days that go into a Google Sprint formatted workshop for me?
Yeah, on Monday we kind of mapped out the problem, or you would map out the problem, picking an important place to focus on, figuring out what that challenge is, and then beginning to establish some of those focus areas. Which in our case, we focused on healthcare, and we focused on how you could use AI to improve a patient's experience. Then on Tuesday, it's a kind of competitor analysis in the morning, and you start sketching a number of solutions on paper using different techniques such as crazy eights and solution sketching, which is the kind of traditional way you would do it. I'll talk a bit more about that later on after we've kind of had this day-to-day breakdown. But the idea here, like the classic Komodo slogan goes, is to keep things fast and loose. These 2 days are essentially like a condensed version of the delivery process and user collaboration. And we've used similar tools and processes like this before in workshops with clients in order to extract info from them. An example that springs to mind is when we worked on Minder, which is kind of a project around mental health care. It is an AI-driven app that helps patients manage their own mental health via such things as a dynamic action plan, tailored resources. And we collabed via Miro with the client. So Miro is a kind of digital whiteboard. And what we did there was produce a kind of competitor analysis and UI UX analysis within there. And that was good to figure out what was on the marketplace in relation to the project we were doing. And it allowed us to figure out were they meeting the user's needs or not, were they surfacing kind of value that we can apply to their app through the competitor analysis. And we applied these with the findings to improve the app's UX via kind of user flows prior to starting wireframes and whatnot. Wednesday, kind of middle of the week now of the sprint, which you'll start and make decisions on those solutions that you want to take forward. You'll get everything on the wall in an art gallery style format, and you'll walk around the room asking questions for the group that you're in around the solutions that you've put on the wall. You'll begin dot voting on these solutions that think you have potential, and then on Thursday you'll begin to put together a prototype from those solutions, again thinking more about executing the idea rather than focusing on the finer details too much. And then Friday, eventually you'll present it back and you'll test it with your team or users, preferably if you can get hold of any.
Okay, thanks for that. So what were the main objectives of the recent design sprint?
We decided to focus on healthcare. It's a huge industry with a lot of challenges, ways in which we could help improve those challenges. We brainstormed areas that could benefit from that improvement. For example, booking a doctor's appointment is always a nightmare. There's a lot of pitfalls within that. Medication prescriptions, there can be issues with it going wrong. Managing illnesses and figuring out what is in place for that. And then we decided to figure out what efforts around helping an elderly patient manage a chronic illness. And we settled on the kind of demographic there because it's not very well represented when it comes to digital. We settled on diabetes because over 500 million adults have that between 20 to 79 years old, which is around kind of 1 in 10. And we have kind of family members there that have that illness. It's a prevalent condition over all ages, but particularly within the elderly. We also wanted to use the sprint to try and figure out an opportunity to take advantage of some of the recent AI tools and figure out which ways AI could kind of help integrate into improving the experience for a patient as well.
Okay, cool. So how does a design sprint help in de-risking product innovation processes?
A design sprint is a kind of really condensed and heavily collaborative process. The main benefits from that are to help de-risk the product innovation process by rapidly validating the ideas and focus on user needs and whatnot, creating quick prototypes for testing, and enabling a lot of early feedback and course correction. And again, it's in this kind of very kind of quick period of 5 days. There can also be a lot of room for quick assessment of the viability and desirability of a concept, see if it's worthwhile taking forward, helping to reduce the risk of that kind of investing a lot of resources into a product that then in turn may fail in the market. And then helps to kind of build better products faster. You don't get too far down a path that may not work out how you expect it in the long run.
So what were some of the biggest limitations of the project?
When we did this, it was tailored more towards a kind of more exploration kind of based R&D project. We didn't have access to kind of topic experts in the room at the time when it came to the subject area. Obviously, when you do a traditional sprint, that would usually be held with a client who could provide expertise on the domain in which they worked. But to combat this, we did take advantage of ChatGPT. Again, this is kind of an AI tool which is based on a kind of text prompt basis, and we provided prompts to that such as I'm an elderly patient with diabetes, what are some of the pain points with X, and kind of ran that through ChatGPT multiple times in order to extract some of the pain points that may arise during a patient's experience essentially, and how they go about managing medication, nutrition, doctor's appointments, etc. This did produce like a lot of really good, interesting and useful results. However, I wouldn't substitute this for actually speaking with experts or actual users. We did this because everything was kind of time condensed and we didn't have that actual access to experts. Although it did provide a lot of useful information in a short amount of time, it would have been better. It would have been a lot better than us generating that kind of just based off searching for this. But yeah, talking to users is always a better thing than going about stuff like that. Within that, we've done this before with kind of numerous early workshops where we've worked with talking to users a lot. We done a lot of early workshops with partners and discussed kind of what they wanted from a project with the Sunderland City Council with the smart app work that we've been doing. We talked about initial research with them, and then we went through competitor analysis work with them as well. We work closely with Sunderland as well on like a category mapping session where we covered their business objectives, categories we wanted to get from the app, and focused on personas and actually kind of researching what they wanted from the app and getting a kind of wide range of personas so we could base that on our progress going forward. We did an ideation session as well where we generated kind of how might we's around the problem statement, and we voted on those to bring kind of what ideas we want to bring forward and ideate on them further. We used Double Diamond, one of Greener's favourites, where we kind of diverged and converged on those ideas until we produced a focus idea that then went into Jira, and we could document that to make up the MVP of the app. So some of the AI limitations from this as well, we wanted to use Wizard, or UI Wizard it's called, as a way to attempt to generate some prototype mockups throughout. Although there were some pretty interesting results produced, such as figuring out a kind of 5 screens or 5 artboards of designs based on our prompt. Most of it was essentially just inspirational paths. There was nothing that we were really able to take forward as a foundation. It kind of would have required more work to get that foundation right to carry that forward. But I think there is potential there. It may have been due to some user error when it came to us generating prompts, or the fact that it was in kind of beta and still in its infancy as a product, really. But it's definitely one to keep an eye on, and one to kind of see how it develops further, because I definitely think it could have some use in the future.
Cool. So what practical techniques did you use to effectively conduct the design sprint?
Yeah, so 4 steps sketch solution. This is kind of like a traditional thing sort of thing, and we've used this in similar ways, in more condensed ways, and used some of the kind of tool activities within this. But this was kind of part of the midweek session, and what it helps to do is generate some solutions quickly. So the first step was kind of walking around the room and taking notes on the ideas we had generated, setting a timer for that around 15 minutes and just kind of jotting down any notes from the things we'd stuck up around the room. Second step, we started to pull solutions from those ideas and the outputs we kind of come up with in the previous day. And then the third step is when you start to get into a bit of the more meatier stuff in terms of the design activities, which is Crazy 8. We split the paper, or you can use a whiteboard into 8 parts to start and generate some iterations or new ideas based on the kind of solutions we'd already generated, and spend around 1 to 2 minutes for each of those sections, so you're not getting to kind of too far down a path with them. And it's kind of a tool we use as part of a wider kind of toolbox of, say, workshop activities that we use in our discovery workshops, where it helps you not think too much about the finer details. You can take down ideas down an avenue that you may not have considered, but we'll kind of chat about a few things around that as well in a bit later on. In the 4th step, we would take them forward and start to flesh those out further as well. And then the following day, you kind of review those and start to make a decision around that.
So what would you say are some other useful design workshop activities you've used?
Yeah, so obviously Crazy 8's mentioned kind of how we kind of do those and referenced double diamond activities. A few of the really good examples are 5 whys. So this is where you kind of begin with the broadest possible question about why the problem has occurred, and then you try to answer it, basically taking your answer and then asking why that happened. So the idea here is kind of you start to understand the root cause of your problem and what you should focus your efforts on fixing. It's a good method for brainstorming the root cause of a problem, and you don't have to tackle the kind of last problem in the kind of series of events. You can look at problems you discover along the way and kind of make assignments for looking into fixing those as well. Another good technique is sailboating. The sailboat exercise is great because it's a kind of visual metaphor, great for visual thinkers as well, and it's very easy to understand, and it aligns the team, quite literally puts everyone in the same boat basically. So what you basically do is draw a boat on a whiteboard, or kind of have a kind of boat graphic on a Miro board, I suppose, if you were remote. And this is your team and project. And then you draw an island here. This is the kind of goal you're trying to work towards. It can be specific features designed in a sprint, or it can be more like an operational level goal. On the sails, you will then have the wind in your sails here, where you kind of drop your post-it notes on kind of ways you can propel your team or project forward. And then you have the kind of rocks here, where you drop your post-its of your kind of risks the project might face in the future as it reaches the goal. And then you anchor, this is the problems and challenges which delayed the sprint and project. So once the teams had a chance to place all their sticky notes about in each one of those kind of reference points, you would go through as a group and see kind of where you agree on the placements, see if there's any common themes that's kind of starting to be suggested by multiple people, And also, if you want to know more about that, I think if you Google sailboat and design activity, last time I checked, we were the top result on Google. If you want to find a bit more about that, a cheeky little shout out there. But yeah, conclusion for these is the activities that aren't a one size fits all, like I kind of mentioned about the toolbox activities. Essentially what we have is many of these design activities in our toolbox, and we can kind of pull them out and reference them for kind of whatever job or whatever you might be picking based on the problem you're trying to solve, and use them within workshops as design activities as a way to basically extract more info.
So I know we've got remote workers in our team. How did you ensure that collaboration was effective during the design sprint with the remote workers?
Yeah, I think obviously the design sprint itself is kind of leads naturally a lot of collaboration. There always kind of benefit from a lot of collaboration as well between all involved. If one is held in the studio, then I think having post-it notes on hand and any other kind of required materials such as markers and dot vote stickers and paper and stuff to start to put that process together. We kind of put a lot of stuff around the room, so it was quite visual when someone could walk in and they could easily reference that around the room. We also used our phone as well to kind of as a companion for people who were on remote on kind of a Google Hangout, so they could say exactly what we were kind of referencing or referring to. And then one of the kind of team could hold that up while we were kind of going through that. And then we also had a Miro board, or you could use FigJam, I suppose, running alongside this, where that has a whole host of interactive tools, timers, workshop tools, etc. But we were sharing everything directly into Miro. And this can help aid that collaborative approach as well. Kind of people in the room and people on remote can work off one board, while also sharing stuff what's in the room as well. It reflected all the outputs of the session as well, so we did digitally recorded everything, as well as allowing the kind of remote team members to see what was going on as we progressed through each day. And then for the prototyping tool, we all collaboratively worked within Figma, and we had a just Google call going throughout every day for 5 days basically, and that was kind of just detailing us allowing to talk to each other, and had people dialed in on screens within our workshop meeting room area. So there's always that collaborative feedback between people in the room and people at home.
Great. So how do you recommend integrating the insights and outcomes from a design sprint into the overall product development process?
I'd say integrating the insights and outcomes from the sprint in a kind of an overall product development process involves extracting a lot of that information from probably further rounds of user testing in order to try and really figure out if that idea or product is viable, documenting and analysing the overall findings, and then aligning that to the outcomes of those findings with a product vision as well, figuring out things like, has our original intention went down a new path? Has things changed? Does this idea work? Does it not? Is there any desire for it? Like, do users want to use it? Is it viable? And then thinking about how you could iterate on this further. Do we need to change the direction of it? Or anything like that? This can greatly help with refining the overall product concept before an actual timeline or roadmap is put together, and before you start actually fleshing out this full kind of product or idea. And in the long run, it gives you an idea as to whether you're starting from a solid foundation or whether the outcome needs reconsidering. And it's kind of minimizing that risk and maximizing the chances of success, basically.
So what are the potential challenges of using design sprints?
Yeah, design sprints are most effective for well-defined and relatively narrow problem statements, basically. They might not be suitable for highly complex or kind of ambiguous challenges. I think those type of solutions require a lot of extensive exploration or discovery and a lot of user research, basically. And I think as well, due to the kind of time and nature of a design sprint, you have to be open-minded to change, especially when it comes to idea generation. I think resistance to new ideas can really hinder the effectiveness of the sprint. And you've got to understand this is all just fast and loose again, that classic Komodo slogan. We're not trying to pin down anything perfect here. We're just testing ideas, prototyping those ideas and seeing if anything's got legs. Design sprints aren't a silver bullet either. They're not going to fix everything, but they can be a great way to generate and test ideas or solutions and quickly iterate and prototype these out in a kind of condensed period of time to see if there's any viability or desirability of that concept, and overall kind of helps reduce the risk of investing resources in a product that may fail over a longer period.
Okay, thanks very much, Woody. That was absolutely packed with information.
No worries.
Lots to mull over there. We'll bring this one in now. So thanks very much for taking the time to listen. We hope we found the insights Woody shared useful, and you've gotten some good inspiration to take away and hopefully use within your own teams, within your own businesses. If you would like to talk to us directly about facilitating the workshop, please reach out to me and my team, and we'll help you decide how to approach innovation and project discovery to help set your digital products and services up for success. So once again, thank you all so much for listening. Both Woody and I are very grateful for your kind attention, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you.